What's going on, guys? It's the Bigs Podcast, episode number 121. And today we are going to break down part one of week two's review. With me, as always, from Denver, Colorado, first up, Jason Ashby. Jason, you squeaked out an 11-10 victory. We're going to talk about it here in just a moment. How are you feeling after week two, my friend?
I'm feeling better. It's still early, so obviously lots can still happen, but getting a win under my belt, I'll take it. No ties. Kostas is a tough cookie, and so getting a win over him, I'll stick that in my cap, and I'll move on to the next one.
Well, it sounds like you are on your way to a great season. Speaking of having great seasons, my co host here, he is a three-time Bigs champion. He is our commissioner, my best friend, Ben Nisman. Benny, how are you feeling after getting a win over the new guy this week?
I'm feeling great. Obviously, I had a statement to make against the new guy. He was a great competitor. Cody did amazingly. Had me sweating the entire time, had me working the entire week, but that's what it's all about. So, yes, I'm happy about the win, but I'm more happy in the fact that I'm just seeing around the league so much competitiveness, so much heart and passion and pride in trying to grab a championship for themselves. And it's amazing to see. So, I'll say it now as I'm probably going to have to say it at least 22 more times this year. Joe, please lead us off, my man.
Let's get going, boys. It is week two, and let's kick this thing off with Jason Ashby defeating Kostas Paragios 11-10. On Sunday, Kostas had a one-walk lead, and Jason, you were able to flip that and take that category. That's all that changed on Sunday. So the close categories this week, Jason, you win by the 2 steals and 2 walks. Kostas wins by 2 home runs given up by a pitcher and 2 strikeouts by a pitcher. You guys did not tie in anything. For Jason on his bench this week, Benjamin, he went 1 for 12.
Oh God. It's amazing.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, I guess not. Um 046. I really don't know.
You almost had it right in half. It's 083 with a run, an
Yeah.
RBI, and 6 strikeouts. None of it plays, obviously. And this is where we're probably going to have to start talking about these trades that happened here, the moves that happened this week. Let me run through everything, and then we'll talk about the trades themselves.
Yep.
So the first trade that went down was with Costas. You get Keibert Ruiz, Francisco Lindor, James Outman, and George Kirby for Matt Olson, O'Neill Cruz, and Chas McCormick. The same day, you also get Ian Hamilton and Kevin Biggio and trade away Jose Barrios. As well, you picked up Spencer Turnbull and Alex Vesia, dropped Chase Silseth, Henry Davis, Luis Garcia, and Trey Lipscomb. You then traded away Evan Carter to, I believe that was Jay Ferraro.
Jay Ferraro, yeah.
Yeah, to get Yuki Matsui and Tanner Houck. You dropped Alex Vesia to pick up Yariel Rodriguez. Dropped Joe Jimenez for Gavin Sheets. Dropped Tyler Rogers for Trevor Williams. 5 1/3, a walk, 7 strikeouts, a 5.06 and a 1.31 in Oakland. You dropped Frankie Montas for Matt Manning. 6 2/3, a loss, 2 homers, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, a 5.40 and a 1.05 against Minnesota. And rest in peace, Spencer Strider. It has been a crazy week for Jason Ashby here as he loses Spencer Strider to Tommy John surgery as well. He then dropped Spencer Turnbull for Michael Soroka, 4 2/3, a loss, a homer, 6 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 9.64 and a 2.36. And added Michael Lorenzen, who went this evening. We'll talk about him next week. So let's just first talk about the trade that happened here between Kostas and Jason. Jason, you ended up getting Lindor, Outman, Kirby, and Ruiz. Which one of these pieces was the big target? Which of these pieces was... How did this come together?
Yeah, so it was really Lindor. I know he's been struggling, but I also know that this is not the Lindor that we're going to see for the full season. And I like O'Neill Cruz, but I'm skeptical of him putting together a full season, and we haven't seen it, so I don't know, if he's going to have, 155 strikeouts or something like that. I don't want that. So I know what Lindor is capable of. I know he's going to be out there every single day. even if he hits 260 and gives me 25, 30 bombs, I'm good with that. So Lindor was the catch. The funny thing is, this trade was agreed to before the news about Strider even came about, before he even got hurt. And so getting George Kirby ends up being a really big piece of this for me, because he essentially replaces Spencer Strider as one of my aces, I guess. So that was kind of a happy accident. The funny thing is, I originally asked for Tariq Skubal, and Kostas countered with Kirby, and I was fine with Kirby. So I'm happy with that. And the Kyber Ruiz was kind of a throw in to just kind of add an extra player. Trading away Matt Olson gave away a first baseman, so now I can have Salvador Perez be a first baseman and have Kyber Ruiz as the catcher. Fortunately, both of those guys are banged up right now, so that doesn't help. And yeah, so that's really how that came about.
Okay.
And I do think it was funny how we made this trade, and I didn't even realize it when we started negotiating that we were facing each other this week. So it was kind of poetic how that came about.
Ben, get in here. What are you thinking about this trade, my friend?
Yeah, it's so hard to say who got the better end of it right now. It's so early. You bought when Lindor's stock was low, and I appreciated that decision because you got to figure that it's never gonna be this bad. So you're playing the law of averages there, which I appreciate. Out with Outman, you get an outfielder on the Dodgers, which I like. Hebert Ruiz, I think that's a solid catcher. I think in general you did fine. I don't know what Kirby is yet. Everyone seems to be very high on him. The jury is still out for me.
Sure.
But I feel like this is a pretty even trade going back because Olson, we know what he's capable of. It's a lot of people felt like it leans towards Costas's favor as a whole, but for me, I have no idea.
If I'm honest, I think it does lean Costas as well, but not by a whole lot. I consider Outman and Chas McCormick kind of a wash.
Yeah.
And then we're talking Lindor, Kirby, and Ruiz for Olson and O'Neill Cruz. Matt Olson, arguably the best player in the deal. I could hear the
Right.
argument if you want to tell me that Lindor is the better player, but I think Olson's the best player in the deal. And whenever you have
best fantasy player probably right now.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. The next trade was with Frank. It was Jose Barrios for Ian Hamilton and Kevin Biggio. Jason, tell us what happened here and how did this one come together?
This one came together actually like towards the beginning of week one. This was very early on. I think we had just missed the cutoff for it to qualify for week one. And I just lost Royce Lewis at third base. So third base was kind of a question mark, especially because at the time, Christopher Morel didn't have the eligibility there yet. I didn't know how much he was going to play there for the Cubs, so I didn't know when he was going to get that eligibility. Biggio has been playing every day practically, except for against lefties. So he was in there for most of the games in a week. He's been okay. It was Ian Hamilton that I was really happy with getting because and I was talking with Mike Haber about it, a resident Yankee fan, that if something happens to Clay Holmes, like this is the next guy in line, and so that piqued my interest. So I'm hoping that I kind of like took a sleeper trade on Ian Hamilton here. So we'll see. I didn't love losing Jose Barrios, but I figured like even losing Spencer Strider, I still feel like I have enough pieces in my rotation to be okay without him.
Benji, get in here. What are you thinking about this Barrios for Kevin Biggio and Ian Hamilton?
Yeah, so firstly a 2-for-1 was necessary because I think Barrios is the best player in this deal. I've never really liked Barrios though. Like, I've never really trusted him. Maybe I haven't seen him enough, or every single time I've watched him pitch, he's imploded. So for me, I mean, I remember picking up Barrios with my number one waiver claim in 2022, understanding that Jason would accept him in a trade. And I took in Donaldson for Barrios in that deal in 2022. So I had no interest in keeping him once it was just a matter of like, hey, Jason, if I use it on Barrios, is this trade a deal? And he said yes. So that tells you how I feel about Barrios. But Kevin Biggio, we're waiting for him to put it all together. But I feel like he is going to get the consistent at bats that he wasn't getting in previous years. So maybe now that he's going to get around 500 at bats, they got a solid hitting group around him with Springer and Guerrero, Bichette. I mean, it's a solid group to protect him, and he'll see a lot of strikes. So I think it's fine. I have no problem with that deal at all. It seemed like it makes sense for both teams.
Yeah, absolutely. The final one was with Jay Ferraro, Evan Carter for Yuki Matsui and Tanner Houck. Jason, how'd this one come together?
Yeah, we were just talking, and again, like he asked me how I felt after these trades, and once they went through, and I was able to see kind of how all the pieces shaped out in my roster, my outfield felt a little crowded, specifically left field and center field, because I have Trout, I have Buxton, who are only center field eligible, and then Outman is only left field and center field eligible, and Evan Carter is only left field eligible. So those four pieces kind of made it hard to kind of juggle. So Jay said, "Hey, I'll take Evan Carter off your hands." And so we went through a couple of different, rounds of negotiation, and you know, I wanted some pitching back, so I got a solid starter from in Tanner Houck. Didn't have a great debut for me this week against the Angels, but he's been really solid so far. And Yuki Matsui, I still think, eventually I think he becomes the closer in San Diego. I don't know if Robert Suarez is really the guy. Maybe he is, but if anything, Yuki Matsui is going to give me innings and strikeouts and relief appearances, so I'm happy with that.
No doubt. Benji, this is a rookie. You're probably not very familiar with Evan Carter at all. So how are you feeling on this one?
This is the one that I actually scratch my head the most on. I feel like because I seen Outman not getting the consistent at bats in LA, I personally would rather have Evan Carter playing left field for me every day than having to mix and match with guys like Newt Barr, um, uh, and I guess that's it, really, right? Brandon Donovan. If you know
Yeah.
I would rather just solidify that in left field. If Matsui isn't the closer, he has no value to me. And then Tanner Houck, he might have a good year, but I also feel like he's a guy that could have gotten dropped and you could have found him in free agency after a couple of bad starts. I understand the need to like help solidify the rotation, knowing that Spencer Strider was probably going to miss the rest of the year at the time that you made the deal. I just feel like for Evan Carter, you probably could have gotten more because his stock is so high right now. So that's the one out of the three that I'd say, you know what? I kind of wish you still had Carter there, because just to make him screw it, make him the left fielder and let the other guys work around that. But if you felt like you needed to shed that, if you don't really believe in what he can do, if he can produce for you, then I can understand it. But that one seemed like a pretty big chip to move. For Houck and a guy that's not even the closer, just like a middle reliever, that one scratched my head a little bit.
Fair. Yeah. Outman had a really nice week for me. It's only 1 week, so like you said, it's very, very early to see, how it comes out. I'm okay with mixing and matching. I know that, he's going to be out against lefties. I know that Biggio is going to be out against lefties. So like I have guys that I can put in and move around. That's my game, is I like having guys who I can, who are versatile. I can move around and fill in as needed.
You used how many moves this week, Jason? Was it all? Nope, you used
Nope,
eight.
8.
8 for this week. Most valuable hitter this week is Mike Trout, 320 with a 370 on base percentage, 5 runs, a double, 2 triples, 2 homers, 4 RBIs, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter, I'm giving it to Francisco Lindor, 192 with the 276, 3 runs, 3 walks, and only 1 strikeout. Not the greatest week you want to see after adding this guy to your roster, but he is coming to life. We've seen him come to life over the last couple of games here, so it's not going to be long before we're calling him one of the best on your team. The Cy Young this week, I'm going to give to Chris Bassett. 6 2/3, a win, a homer, 4 walks, 8 strikeouts, a 1.35 and a 1.35. The Cy Young It's unfortunately going to be George Kirby, 4 innings, a loss, a homer, 3 strikeouts, 11.25, and a 2 in Toronto. Not the greatest start, again, with those 2 pieces coming on the roster immediately.
Yep.
But, again, they're going to do a lot better than this for you. And you still got the win, even with these 2 pieces underperforming for you. So, good job there.
Thank you.
For Kostas on his bench, Benjamin, this one might be easy for you. It's 4 for 12.
Oh, thank goodness. not good for Costas though.
No.
333 average on the bench, and we'll see. Something tells me that maybe not much played, but possibly the RBIs or runs.
So we've got 1 run, a double, 3 RBIs, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts.
The 2 walks.
The 2 walks are important, and the 3 RBIs he would have had to be perfect, and even then that still gets him 1 short.
And the walks he has to be perfect. So
yeah,
and I will say, and I was holding this in. I was kind of surprised. Maybe I misread it, but I was a little surprised that he did not bench his pitchers on Sunday. I was waiting for that to happen, and it didn't. And I feel like if he had, it would have been a whole different. We would have having a different conversation right now, because like he was winning in every category, and that's how it was pretty much. The only thing I was leading in going into Sunday was innings.
Right.
So,
but that's how it remained, Jason. He won every single pitching category besides innings. So you might be right. Like, I'm not seeing what he was risking, but
yeah.
he won the home runs given up by 2. He won the walks given up by 8. He beat you in strikeouts anyway by 2. He kept the ERA whip. So like,
but like
I'm not sure, but it didn't make any difference.
Because he started his pitching, I started my pitching. Like,
oh, okay.
So like that's why I picked up I picked up Trevor Williams earlier in the week for the Sunday start. I picked up Soroka for the Sunday start. I picked up I put in Christian Javier against the Rangers. I wouldn't have started any of those guys if he had benched all of his pitching.
For Kostas's moves this week, aside from the giant trade we already talked about, he added Joe Mantiply and Scott Magoo. 2/3 of an inning, a loss, 2 walks, a 40-50, and a 6 relief appearance a 6 whip in a relief appearance for Scott Magoo. Not the greatest appearance you want to have. He dropped Jared Triolo. He then added Tyler Anderson, 4 1/3, a loss, 2 homers, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 6.23 and a 1.62 in Boston, dropping Magoo. He added Dylan Dodd, who's NA eligible and probably going to become a 5th starter for Atlanta, and added Josh H. Smith for David Fry. He dropped Joe Mantiply for Jacob Webb, dropped Jacob Webb for Fernando Cruz, dropped Josh Smith for Jalen Beeks, who was a waste, and he picked up Matt Bierling, and then dropped Matt Bierling for Lamont Wade, 1 for 2 with an RBI. He used all 10. His MVP this week is unfortunately a guy that might be hitting the IL here shortly, in Christian Yelich. 385 with a 500 on-base percentage, 2 runs, a double, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, 3 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter, hey, it's Oneil Cruz.
Definitely.
Good to have him on the squad. 087 with a 125, a run, a homer, 2 RBIs, a walk, 11 strikeouts, and 2 big ol' errors. The Cy Young is Mackenzie Gore, 5 innings, a win, a walk, 11 strikeouts, nothing earned, and a 1 whip. And the Cy Young I'm given to Brandon Pfaadt, 6 innings, 2 homers, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 9, and a 150. All right, so Jason, how are you feeling coming out of this thing? You feeling like you're getting your feet underneath you now that you've stabilized this team post-draft?
Yeah, I do. I all of a sudden now have a couple of banged up catchers, like I mentioned, but I think I'll weather that. But otherwise, yeah, I feel better. Obviously losing Spencer Strider does not make me feel great, but it just means I no longer have any Braves on this team, so that's good. But I feel good. I feel good about this win. Again, Kostas is as tough as it gets. He's out there grinding every single day, so he pushed me to my limits, and I'm taking this win. Again, like that Tyler Anderson start you rattled off, that happened yesterday. That happened on Sunday, and like it wasn't great, but like it was good enough. Garrett Crochet was not very good, but he struck out 10 batters yesterday. Like Mackenzie Gore struck out 11 yesterday. So like it worked out. It was just I was curious to see if he was going to bench his pitching, and it never happened.
Benji, put a bow on this one for us.
Yeah, so I mean, it's hard to ignore rather what happened on Monday, which put Jason in the driver's seat for me to win this thing. The fact that it ends up just finishing at 11-10, Kostas should feel extremely lucky because if we get into what happened on Monday, April 8th, let's start with the hitting. Let's just start with the hitting. A 3 for 35. And for anyone like me who can't do the math, that's an 086 batting average and a 195 on base. 2 runs, 1 double, no triples, a no, it was actually a 2-run homer, but he did get another RBI there. So 1 home run, 3 RBIs, 4 walks, 11 strikeouts, and 2 errors. This is just on Monday, getting 2 errors, 11 strikeouts, an 86 average, a 195 on base, 3 hits out of 35. He gets the 1 home run, but big deal. You look at that, and I've been there on a Monday. That makes me sick. It's just like you feel like you have so much to come back from at that point. You could basically forget all the hitting categories. And as we know, Costas only won one of them. It was doubles, and a lot had to do with this Monday. We say you can't win on Monday, but you can certainly lose the week on Monday. And I felt like this is what it was. The fact that it finishes 11-10 is beyond me. Let's go into the pitching now. 10 innings, a 7.84 ERA, and a 165 whip. Yeah, 5 relief appearances, a 2-1, but 3 home runs given up. 6 walks to 9 strikeouts. A 7.84 ERA, 165. So a 7.84, 165, and an 0.86 average, 195 on base. How the hell are you coming back and winning that week? Somehow he grabbed 10 stats. Somehow he won every single pitching stat besides innings pitched. He grinded it out. With all due respect, Jason, you played great, but this guy really had to climb back, really had to claw his way into this, used all 10 ads. I give him a lot of credit here because I know that when I personally have a Monday like that, I'm disheveled. My confidence is down. My self-esteem is down. I'm not sure what the hell to do with my ads. Do I delegate them towards pitching? Just try to go for the innings? Do I try to make a little bit of work happen with the hitters, try to grab some counting stats, a double, maybe luck into a home run or some stolen bases? Like, what do I do with these 10 ads at this point? He figured out a way to make it work, and I give him a ton of credit because this could have been a lot uglier. This could have been something like a 14-6, a 15-5. It ends up being 11-10. Tip my cap to Jason. Jason, you had a strong week, man, but a lot of it was on the other side. This guy's team failed him.
Yeah, and look, I'm staring right now at Julio Rodriguez, and look, I owned this guy last year, and I saw how cold he was to start the year. I'm fortunate that I'm facing Costas now. I'll face him again, but like knowing what Julio Rodriguez is capable of, to see him hit 150 over the week with 8 strikeouts and an error, like that was huge for me.
Sure.
Mhm.
I remember him starting slow last year too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then he had this like torrid week where he hit like 600 for the week.
Yeah.
It was nasty. Jason, congratulations on the win, Costas. Good job mitigating this loss here and keeping yourself in the fight. Let's move on to the next matchup here, and it's going to be Ben Nisman taking down a 12-7 win over Cody Piatt. Benji, how'd you feel after this one?
I felt great, man. There were certainly some things that we'll get into that really frustrated me and made me want to hypothetically pull my hair out of my head, but I got to be happy with that. I mean, it's a stronger win than week 1, which was an 11-8. That was a +3. This is a +5. And there were some decisions that I made specifically right at the end of the matchup that really changed my feeling about this one. This could have been a lot worse. Of course, there were things on the bench that I wish didn't happen, some decisions I didn't make early that I wish I did, but all in all, I got to be satisfied with this.
You did quite well, my friend, quite well. On Sunday, you benched everybody but Juan Soto, and that gave you the strikeouts category, as Cody had a 4 strikeouts advantage. You end up getting that by 4 on that side. On the other side of the coin, it looks like you had a 7-tick advantage in the whip, and the whip ends up being a little bit ugly at the end of the week. So close categories this week, Ben. You win by the 2 triples, 4 strikeouts, a save, and 9 ticks on the ERA. Cody wins by those 7 ticks on the whip. You guys tied in errors and losses. Always the categories I like to send in trades, errors and losses. You guys can have all of those. I'll have everything else. On your bench this week, Benjamin, you went 9 for 26.
Yeah. Ugh. That's horrendous. 342.
346. You almost had it. 4 runs, 3 doubles, 4 RBIs, 5 walks, 7 strikeouts, and an error. And it doesn't look like, the doubles, but you'd have to be perfect.
Well, let me get into that, honestly, because on Friday, I had one guy to bench. There were guys that were off. There were canceled games because of rain. I had one guy to bench on Friday. I benched Ryan McMahon because he's not one of my starters. And I kind of knew, I was like, this is usually what happens when you have one guy to bench. He usually has the best game of everyone there. How about a 4 for 6 with 3 doubles? 3 doubles, 4 hits. And I'm thinking, if I lose batting average as a result of this, I'm going to be furious. I'll sign up for just losing doubles because I'm kind of expecting to at that point. And then on Saturday, he takes the lead by 2. And I said, you know what? You can have that one. I'll try to back out into strikeouts. So before we get into anything further, as far as my Sunday goes, because I know we have a lot to get into with the ads and everything. Last year in the semifinals, I made a big mistake on benching I did bench the entire offense. Who was the one guy that I was supposed to play that day? And I go to the finals.
Juan Soto.
He had 4 hits that day. So I want to tell you a little story that I heard from someone else. It happened on the set of North by Northwest sometime in the 60s. And Ava Marie Saint had a really big role there. She was the female role in that, and she's the female lead. And the one direction that Alfred Hitchcock would give her, look at Cary Grant. Just look at Cary Grant. And I liken this to now. Just play Juan Soto. So going into that Sunday, I'm thinking, I want to win strikeouts, but average is still close. On base, who knows what can happen? Runs, those are also still close. If he has a crazy day on runs, even though he needed 7 or 8 of them, just look at Cary Grant and everything will be okay. Play Juan Soto, everything should be all right. And that was my goal going in. As far as the pitching goes, I had to kind of make a couple different decisions on who I was going to start, who I was going to bench from the bullpen, the starting pitchers. Seems like a lot of those did end up working out. We'll get into all of that, but from now on Sunday, look at Cary Grant and you should be okay.
Play Juan Soto. That's the reason you took him 3rd overall. Your moves this week, Benjamin, you added Jesse Chavez, an inning and a third, a walk, a strikeout, a 2.25 whip, and a relief appearance. And Jake Bird for a third of an inning, a save, and a relief appearance, dropping Emerson Hancock. You dropped Jesse Chavez for Tyler Kinley. Is that off waivers, or is that just he got a W there, Jason?
Waivers.
I think it was a waiver claim,
Yeah. You dropped Pedro Avila for Nelson Velasquez, Caleb Ferguson for John Singleton, and Steven Wilson for Abraham Toro. You then dropped Velasquez for Alex Faedo, 2 innings, a walk, 2 strikeouts, nothing earned in an 0-50 with a relief appearance. Dropped Toro for Peter Lambert, 3 innings, a walk, 3 strikeouts, nothing earned in an 0-67 in a relief appearance. And dropped John Singleton for Randall Grichuk. Finished out the week dropping Kinley for Alex Vesia, an inning and 2/3, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts, nothing earned, and a 180. Your MVP this week, Benjamin, who is it?
Ooh, I mean, it's hard for it never to be Juan Soto. Is it Juan Soto?
We're going Brandon Nimmo this week only because he had a triple, but it's almost an identical line. 364 with a 440, 7 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 2 homers, 8 RBIs, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter, unfortunately, is friend of the program and one of the greatest to ever grace your team, Carlos Santana. 105 with a 150, a run, an RBI, a walk, and 4 strikeouts. The Cy Young this week, who is it, Benjamin?
Just for getting me the innings that I needed to get to the 42, I'd probably say it's Nestor Cortez. But if you wanted to give it to Kyle Finnegan because he by himself wins me the saves category, I wouldn't blame you for picking Finnegan.
No, we went Cortez, 12 innings and a win, 12 strikeouts, a 3 and an 067. That's a pretty damn good line for the guy you brought in to essentially be the ace of this staff.
I,
These,
I'm looking at this right now, and it is sad that both Kyle Finnegan and Alex Lange both had losses and a 0 ERA. That's pretty.
That's extra inning baseball these
I know,
days.
and that's why
Yeah.
I hate that rule.
Well, I mean, someone has to get the win, someone has to get the loss.
Yeah, no,
Would you
I
rather
hate
them
the ghost
take
runner
the
rule.
ERA?
I hate the ghost runner rule,
Yeah, no, I know. I mean, that's
but I
that's the
digress.
biggest.
But I just thought that was
That's
interesting.
yeah.
The Cy Yuck, Benji, you pitched quite well here. I guess we're going to have to go with Pedro Avila and his 12 ERA across a relief appearance. That was 3 innings deep, so not too shabby a pitching week for you, my friend. Over on
No,
Cody's side, on his bench, Benjamin, he goes 8 for 37.
8 for 37.
Mhm.
So is it 228?
It's 216. Not too bad. Not too bad. 4 runs, a double, 2 homers, 9 RBIs, 4 walks, and 13 strikeouts. None of it plays. Not a single bit of it. His moves this week, he also made a trade that I think is quite interesting here. He receives Kevin Gossman for Brian Reynolds and Ronel Blanco. Jason, which side do you like more on this particular deal?
Man, I don't know. I've been off on Kevin Gausman all winter, all spring. He's had a shoulder problem. He's had 3 starts. They've all been not good to awful. Including his first one this week. Owning him was terrible against the Rockies at home, not in Colorado, but in Toronto. I think I like the Blanco Reynolds deal.
Benji, you had this one dropped in your lap. How did you feel about this one coming
Yeah, very
on during the
early on
matchup?
Monday. Very early on Monday, Adam reaches out to me and he says, if this goes through, A, would you do it if you're me? And B, how fast does it go through? I said, well, A, I can't answer that question for you. B, I'll put it through immediately. The way it works, as we know, if you make that deal before Tuesday, last pitch, it goes through immediately. So that's how it went. And fortunately for Adam, I think this one worked in his favor. One thing that a lot of people don't know is that Minter was rumored to be in this deal, and that didn't end up happening. And then on Monday, Minter gives up a home run. And I'm thinking, oh my God, thank God. Like, how lucky am I that that guy was not involved in the deal? If I had to guess who gets the better deal, I really like Brian Reynolds. That's the thing. Like, I'm not like super high on the Pirates, but Adam had Connor Joe last year. He had Sawinski last year. He has some comfort with these Pirates hitters. So I think that might have been what some of the attraction was. And maybe he felt like he could shed some of that starting pitching. We know by the end of this week, Adam could use Gaussman now with the trouble that he's having in his rotation. So it's hard to say. Gaussman obviously could break out and have an unbelievable season. We've seen it happen before, as long as he stays healthy. Like Jason says, the guy's had a ton of injury issues. Ever since he was a prospect for the Orioles, he's been having problems. So it's really hard to say. I understand the big deal for both sides. if between these two players, when we think about Gaussman or Reynolds, if I have a choice and they're both there in the same round, I'm taking Reynolds just because of the injury scare for me.
Agreed.
I think I'm with you guys. I like the deal for both sides. I like the buy low potential of getting Kevin Gossman here for a guy that nobody had rostered 2 weeks ago and nobody was even looking at, and Brian Reynolds. Um,
I had him rostered.
Man, between him and Michael Bush,
Yeah,
you're
Yeah.
I'm 0 for 2.
Yikes.
Ugh.
Yikes. The rest of his moves this week, he dropped Alec Marsh for Jojo Romero, John Means, and JJ Blade. A whole lot of J names in that particular set of pickups. He dropped Junior Caminero for Ty France, Ernie Clement for Justin Slater, dropped Clayton Kershaw, and picked up Cary Carpenter. Dropped Jared Walsh for Nelson Velasquez and JJ Blade to get back Junior Caminero. He, in fact, used, what is that, 8? 3, 4,
Yes.
5, 6, 7, 8. Yes.
Yep.
His MVP this week, we're going to talk about this guy a lot this year, I assume. That's going to be Corbin Carroll. 280 with a 333 on base, 4 runs, a double, a homer, 3 RBIs, 3 stolen bases, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter this week is Ty France, 077 with an 077, a run, a double, an RBI, and 6 strikeouts. The Cy Young, Jason, you love you some Reed Detmers, don't you?
I think he's gonna be really good.
Yeah, 6 1/3, a win, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, nothing earned, and an 079. The Cy Young, though, is Kevin Gossman, who came over in that deal. His first outing was not great, 3 2/3. The loss, 4 strikeouts, a 1473 and a 273 at home against Colorado. Benjamin, how are you feeling about your win here against Mr. Cody?
Feel pretty good, man. A lot to unpack here. I'll start on Wednesday, and this is what's beautiful about this league. It's like if you hesitate, that's it. That guy is gone. I was moments, seconds on Wednesday from picking up Jurickson Profar. I had them all lined up. I just wanted to double check to see if there's anybody else that's out there in free agency that didn't have a day off on Thursday. By the time I went back to Jurickson Profar, Mike Haber, of course, he's gone. Guy goes 3 for 3 with a double, a home run, yada, yada, yada. Perfect day, of course. And because that happened, your esteemed commissioner gets itchy on the trigger finger and makes reactionary decisions. So on Thursday, I had to make a bunch of ads to fill up the lineup. I go with Nelson Velasquez, Jonathan Singleton, and Abraham Toro. And as I'm doing all this, I look in my head and I'm just like, this is not going to work. This is absolutely not going to work. Start with Velasquez. Thanks a lot for your error. That ends up costing me winning that category. Abraham Toro, yeah, you're the leadoff hitter. You couldn't find a way to get on base. Oh, no, you did. You got a 250. Great, you got 1 hit. No counting stats at all. Jonathan Singleton, a double, 2 walks, a strikeouts, 3 ads that were pretty much wasted completely, and an error to boot. Okay, fine. I can recover from that. On Friday, we talked about Ryan McMahon, 4 for 6, 3 doubles. Then let's talk about Saturday when my team actually forgot to play baseball. They were about as awful as they could have been. It's a 7 for 43, a 163 average, a 280 on base, 6 runs. I liked the double, a triple, a home run, 5 RBIs, 7 walks, 9 strikeouts, but that's just about as bad as they could be. Until they're worse, which could happen. So on Sunday, that's the big thing to talk about here. I'm looking at this. I'm pretty good with ERA and WHIP here. Losses, they're really close. Wins could go either way. Like walks given up by a pitcher could go either way. Homers, like all these pitching stats are close. And Cody decides to have the gumption to start 4 pitchers. 4. Brian Bayo, Cole Reagans, Bailey Ober, Mitch Keller. Firstly, 3 out of 4 got wins. That's the first thing. Oh, no, sorry. 2 out of 4 got wins, but he got a win out of AJ Minter out of the bullpen. He gets 6 scoreless out of Cole Reagan. He gets 7 gorgeous innings against the Phillies for Mitch Keller for the win, a 2.57 ERA, a 1.14 whip. He gets 6 scoreless innings out of Bailey Ober in Detroit. And I'm thinking, are you kidding me? How the hell is not one of these guys blowing up right now? And if Nestor Cortez or Flaherty could have pitched somewhat competently, I'm winning whip also. I assume that I would. And now all of a sudden, ERA is going away from me because these guys are pitching like machines. Every single one of them. I'm like, oh my God, I cannot buy one. I can't. Finally, just finally, something had to fall my way, right? And the Marlins, they're in the 9th inning now. They got a chance to close out the Braves. And if that happens, saves are tied because my man Cody has Tanner Scott. And Tanner Scott gets the first guy. No, he doesn't. It's a base hit for Acuna. But he gets the first out. And he gets the second out. And then he gets another runner on. But he has 2 outs. And he just needs 1 for the save. And then Marcelo Zuna over the wall, a 3-run homer. The Marlins take the lead. They win the game. Tanner Scott gets on the hook for the loss, which now ties the category. He can't win saves now, and it falls in my way. Unbelievable. It's amazing how something like this can happen on a Sunday. We've been there, but we still don't believe it when it happens. So here I am thinking, you know what? It's 11-8. It feels good. I can walk away with that. But I do have one ad left. And we have one more game to go. And we talk about that Sunday night stat and how it's important. And it's so funny how if you look at matchup to match and you say, you know what, this guy could use this from this guy and they could tie that stat or win that stat. Joe, you had something on the line going Sunday night. And here I am thinking, if I could find one reliever to come in to this game, and as long as he doesn't give up the loss, I could turn ERA here. And I go with Vesia. I have Yarborough and I have Vesia now. 2 guys in this Padres-Dodgers game. All I need is one of them to come in and pitch well. And sure enough, it happened. And so rarely. I mean, I've made decisions on a Sunday night to play this hitter instead of this hitter, and it works out. But very rarely do I make an ad for the Sunday night game, and that ends up flipping a category. In this case, it was ERA. Vesia gets 5 nice outs. Before that even happened, Cody benches Wandy Peralta in front of that game, trying to stay away from losing whip. If he plays Wandy Peralta, I don't know, that's a scoreless inning from Peralta. Maybe he should have done that, but I went all chips in. Vesia in his last 2 games, 2 losses. In the last 2 games he has 2 losses. What are the chances that Vesia can come in for his 3rd relief appearance and get a 3rd loss? Well, maybe Yarborough could then. But I kind of just played against the numbers and said pitching beats hitting most of the time. This should fall in my favor. And sure enough, Vesia in the Sunday night game, that was the pickup. That ends up flipping it from an 11-8 to 12-7 with ERA. And that made me feel a lot better about some of these other things that went down. The error from Velasquez, the fact that I couldn't find a way to get doubles. All these things came together and turned into a 12-7 win. And I think I got to be satisfied with that. This wasn't my best management, but it certainly wasn't my worst. I was pretty proud of some of the stuff that I did here. And the offense really clicked in general. I mean, it was already frustrating enough that this guy threw 73 and 2/3 innings and had a 3.18 ERA and a 1.17. I only pitched 46 innings. This guy pitched 73 innings. I'm just like, what the hell is going on? He only gave up 19 walks in 73 innings. Like, that's ridiculous. He had a 7-3 record. He had 73, so he went a strikeout an inning, and it was just really hard to compete with these pitching numbers. The whole week I felt like I was just kind of trying to stay on par, and I felt like this is the 2nd week in a row, and I'm like, if I'm playing some of you guys, I'm murdering you guys. Like, why do I have to face this pitching staff this week? Sure enough, that's what I had to deal with, but I feel like I did a pretty good job staying on par and just like hoping by Sunday something could break my way. It almost didn't with how amazing his starting pitchers are. And Cody, you should know this, that what you did with those 4 starting pitchers took a lot of you-know-whats. And most of the time, for most of us, that would have burned us way worse. Like you're probably taking one extra loss there and losing that category. You're probably giving up a lot more walks, 5 more, and losing that category. So I thought it took a lot of gumption. He did it. It worked out for him. I respect it. I respect the hell out of it. But wow, that was just shocking as hell. I'm just relieved to get out of there with a W.
Guts, stones, testicular fortitude is what Cody showed this week in starting those 4 guys against you on Sunday. Jason, anything to add on this one?
Just echoing that, like, look, Cody's a new guy facing the commissioner, the founder of this league. I think he put up a good showing. It was a 12-7 in the box score, but like this was not like, like Ben was saying, this was not just a lay down matchup. So hats off to Cody for second week in the bigs, making the commissioner sweat it out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Not to mention like the fact that I had to score 29 runs, had to hit 39 RBIs. Like my offense brought it, and he kept chipping away and getting close with batting average. The fact that all the doubles kept happening. Like there were some things like the runs, like there were things that he just kept pace with me on. Just it kept on making me have to work a little bit harder. And like sure enough, like it's not like I used my last ad towards tomorrow. I had to use my last ad for that matchup. So that keeps me a little bit more naked going into week 3. So tip of the cap to the new guy, Cody. He's really shown himself here. And you can tell that he's paying attention and working hard at it every day. As a commissioner, I can't ask for more.
Thank you so much, Cody. We appreciate you, and we appreciate the hard work you're putting in. Let's jump to the next matchup here, and it's going to be Jimmy Dunlap doubling up Ari Nisman 12-6. On Sunday, Ari had a 2-run lead, and Jimmy was able to flip that. Ari also had a 1-walk advantage, and Jimmy was able to flip that. Ari also had a 30-tick on-base percentage lead, and Jimmy was able to flip that. So 3 flip stats on the Sunday get him the double-up victory. Close categories this week. Ari wins by the triple. He wins by 9 ticks on the batting average. Jimmy wins by the run, the 2 walks, the 3 ticks on the on-base percentage. They tied in losses and home runs given up by a pitcher. For Jimmy on his bench this week, Benjamin, he went 11 for 39.
Well, that should be easy enough. 319.
282. We got.
By the way, they also tied in errors, Joe.
Oh, they did tie in errors. So they did. I missed that one. 8 runs, 3 doubles, 2 homers, 7 RBIs, a steal, 3 walks, and 10 strikeouts for Jimmy this week on his bench. None of it plays. None of it plays. Well, it was such a strong
an extra couple of hits maybe.
Maybe
batting average.
Yeah, especially when you have a 282 on the bench. Missed a couple of big ones. Rhys Hoskins went 2 for 5 with a double and an RBI on the 12th. That was a pretty big miss there. His moves this week, he used all 10. Joey Gallo and Tyler Freeman for John Birdie and Robert Stevenson. He then added Trevor Richards for Tim Meza, Jose Quintana for Tyler Freeman. Quintana 5 1/3, a win, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 5.06 and a 1.31 in Atlanta. Ballsy.
Yeah.
Ballsy stream there. He drops Cary Carpenter for Edward Olivares and drops Joey Gallo for Brenton Doyle. He drops Taylor Rogers for Nick Sandlin on waivers. Dropped Jose Quintana for Ryan Feltner, 5 innings, a win, a homer, 2 walks, 4 strikeouts, a 360, and a 2 in Toronto. That is Ryan Feltner.
Ballsy again.
Yeah. What team?
No idea. The Royals.
That's the Colorado Rockies. That is a Rockies starter outside of Colorado. Another ballsy move there. Finishes it out with Stephen Kolek for Ryan Feltner and Josh Smith for Dean Kramer. His MVP this week, who else would it be? But it is, in fact, Ronald Acuna Jr. He was an absolute beast. 318, 464 on base, 7 runs, a double, an RBI, 6 steals. 6 steals. 5 walks, and only 2 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter this week is Gleyber Torres, a 125 with the 222, 2 runs, a steal, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, and 2 errors. Gross.
Ew.
The Cy Young this week is Dylan Cease. 6 innings, a win, a homer, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, nothing earned, in an 0.67 whip. The Cy Young is, in fact, Dean Kramer, who we mentioned earlier as a waiver pickup. 4 innings, a loss, 2 homers, a walk, 3 strikeouts, a 13.50 and a 2.75. With a shout out to Tim Mays' 81 ERA and a 9 across his 1 relief appearance. Yuck. Disgusting. Over on Ari's side, Benjamin, this is a big one. He goes 18 for 69.
69. 36. 268.
261 is close. 13 runs, 3 doubles, 5 homers, 11 RBIs, 4 walks, and 17 strikeouts. Question is, does anything play? I don't know.
On
Off the
base
top of my
percentage.
head.
A on base percentage has to.
13
When
runs,
that
and he
razor
lost that
thin-
by 1. On base percentage, absolutely. 3 doubles, he would have had to be perfect, but it's still worth mentioning there. And
Sorry,
the
did
4
you say he left
walks.
an error? Did you say he left an error on the bench?
No errors. No
No
errors.
errors at
Neither
all.
one of these guys left an error on the bench.
Wow.
They got all 6 of them in the lineup. His moves this week, he only used 4 of them. Yohan Moncada gets added on the 60-day IL for Chris Taylor. He drops Leody Taveras. He has Jared Triolo 2 for 3 with a run and a walk. He drops that guy for Edmundo Sosa 0 for 3 with a strikeout and an error. He streamed an error. That's great. Good job. Drops Sosa for Joey Ortiz. His MVP this week, we're giving it to Taylor Ward. Of all people in this lineup, Taylor Ward, 360 with a 385. 3 runs, 2 homers, 9 RBIs, a steal, a walk, and 3 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter, and I still don't know how to pronounce this dude's first name, but Sedeni Raffaella? Is that what we're going with?
Let's do it.
That's what we're going with. 0.59 and a 111. An RBI, a walk, 5 strikeouts, and an error. Not great. Not great. We're giving the Cy Young to Pete Fairbanks, 3 saves across 3 relief appearances, a 1.67 and a 3 ERA, 2 walks, and 5 strikeouts. The Cy Young is Sean Manaea, 1473 and a 327 on the whip across 3 2/3 and a loss. Benjamin, Ari is now 0-2 to start the season and not looking all that strong in these 2 losses. What are you thinking from him this year?
I'm concerned. I'll be honest. I kind of felt like going into the season, this might be a really long year for Ari. And I give him credit. On Sunday, he did something that I didn't really expect because I didn't know how often he actually did this, but he actually did bench Blake Snell on Sunday, knowing that he had nothing to gain and everything to lose. And if he does end up playing Snell, this matchup is a whole lot different. He loses home runs given up, and he loses losses.
Yep.
So, like, those are 2 stats, and all of a sudden it's a 14-6 instead of a 12. So I'll give him credit there, but I always felt like the long bench is going to hurt you more than it does help you because it's very, very difficult to mix and match that and get it right most of the time. You're going to end up costing yourself stats. We see it happening here. He could have won on base percent. When it's that razor thin, 297 to 294, yeah, like that could have worked. 2 walks, it was gettable. 2 doubles, it was gettable. 1 run, it's gettable. It's just when they're that close, that a little tinker here and there would have made the difference. And I could argue that there are a couple of guys on this team that don't need to be on this team, but he loves doing this, man. He loves mixing and matching. One thing over the first 2 weeks, Stanton has not been played enough. Like, he started to do it now, but the moment he got that double on opening day, I say Stanton's got to be played every single day. Like, he just has to. In that lineup, I am never benching Giancarlo Stanton. My feeling on him is different than yours, Joe, or Jay's, or some of the other guys that do not like Giancarlo Stanton. But I truly believe in him to have a big, big campaign. So that's my opinion on that. I would just be playing him and just putting him in right field or my utility every single day. He's got Tatis, Stanton. Those two guys are automatic for me. The guy that gets left out, I guess, is Taylor Ward in that regard, unless you're benching Lourdes Gurriel, and I don't know if you're doing that, but he's got some pieces to play with. They're nice pieces, but none of us really know who's going to have the best season out of all of them. So it's really tough. And for me, I would just like say, you know what, these are my guys, and send the rest off to free agency. And if I'm wrong, like, someone else will enjoy them. But you go with, I'd rather stick with my gut.
I feel like I just by looking at his moves this week, and he only used 4 of them, he was definitely concerned about Rafi Devers because there was an injury scare with him earlier in the week,
Yeah.
and every guy he picked up Yohan Moncada.
Yeah.
He goes on the IL. He picks up Triolo, decent, drops him for Sosa. Like, all these guys are third basemen because he didn't know what the deal was going to be with Devers, and I feel like that hurt him.
No, I just find it's really just, maybe it's just coincidental that he, on his team, he basically can spell every single position except third base. Like, that's the one position that he doesn't have anyone to fill in for.
Yeah.
So, like, that stinks automatically. I do like that the fact that he has Fairbanks and Alexis Diaz, like, he finally actually has like a bullpen that's going to compete against most guys in our league, where in previous years, forget about it. He's going 0-22 in saves. Maybe he gets lucky and ties a couple, but like, in general, he's never winning that category. Maybe once or twice just from being lucky. Here now, he actually will go over 500 in that category. He's still going to lose most of the time in relief appearances because he's never going and chasing those categories. He's never going and getting relievers. He just doesn't. So it's going to be a tough season. I don't love his pitching staff. I don't love his offense. His management leaves a lot to be desired over the last few years. I realize it's an even year, but like, law of averages, I think it comes to an end. I just don't trust this team. On the other side, Jimmy, this was a big comeback win. You could argue he should have beaten me last week. I went into it in depth, just saying like how lucky I was that he was on a boat all matchup basically, and I was able to get away from it. But here he put all the pieces together, and he was still on a trip this past week, and he's still finding a way to get stats. And I give him a lot of credit because he pulled off a lot on Sunday. He deserved this win. This is a dangerous man, and now obviously in a playoff spot doesn't really matter. But in the top 6, like, Jimmy knows that he is a force to be reckoned with, and he will be dangerous all season.
Yeah, we're not going to be talking about playoff spots until after the All-Star break at this point. We're going to talk about top 6, and then that's probably about it. It's nice to be in the top 6, top 5, but realistically, we're not talking about playoff hunt until after the second long week of the season. Hats off to Jimmy on a great win. Ari, let's hope that you get off the schneid here and can get a win under your belt soon. Let's move over to the final matchup of the evening, gentlemen. We're going to talk about the Mikes taking on each other. Sherman versus Haber this week, and Haber gets the 13-7 win. On Sunday, home runs were tied, and Haber took that. Sherman had a 2 RBI lead, and Mike Haber put the hammer down, taking that by 11. Mike Sherman also had a 5-tick advantage on the batting average, and Haber put the hammer down on that as well. Mike Haber, however, did have 8 strikeout advantage on the pitching side, and Sherman took that away from him. Close categories this week. Sherman wins by the triple, 4 ticks on the whip. Haber wins by 2 home runs and 3 relief appearances. They tied in saves. For Mike Haber on his bench this week, Benjamin, it's a 10 for 27.
27. 333. 362. I don't know.
You almost nailed it. It was 370. 5 runs, a double, a homer, 6 RBIs, a steal, a walk, and 8 strikeouts. The runs, if you were perfect, but that's all that would play here. His moves this week, he used 5 of them. He dropped Blaze Alexander for Jock Peterson, dropped Michael Soroka for Martin Perez, and dropped Jock Peterson for the aforementioned Jurickson Profar. 3 for 3, 2 runs, a double, a homer, and 3 RBIs. That's the day you were kicking yourself, right, Ben?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Turns out it doesn't really even play, but.
And by the way, me too, because I was this close to grabbing Profar too, but I'm holding on to that waiver spot. So.
All right. Jose Buto gave him a nice start here. He picked him up on the 12th. Dropped Gabe Spire and Jurickson Profar for Mason Wynn, the shortstop on the Cardinals. Like I said, 5 total ads. His MVP this week is Marcell Ozuna. 458 with a 519 on base percentage, 4 runs, a double, 3 homers, 11 RBIs, 3 walks, and 4 strikeouts. The least valuable hitter is Nick Castellanos. 176 with a 176, a run, 2 RBIs, and 4 strikeouts. Cy Young goes to Jose Buto's incredible start off of the waiver wire. 6 innings, 9 strikeouts, a walk, nothing earned, and a no-50. And the Cy Young goes to Michael Soroka, who was not good. 3 2/3, a 982, and a 191. On Sherman's side, Benjamin, he went 20 for 70.
Oh, man. And somehow I don't know how that works out. Okay. 20 for 60, 20 for 70. Is it 285?
Yeah, it's roughly that. It's 286, but you round up. It's like 285.9 or whatever.
All right, count it.
We're counting it. 13 runs, 2 doubles, a whole bunch more. 2 homers, 10 RBIs, 4 steals, 12 walks, 22 strikeouts, and 2 errors. So he would have had 6 total. What an amazing week for Sherman on his bench. It's the 2 homers play, the 10 RBIs would have gotten him close. 4 steals, he would have had to be perfect. Even the 12 walks doesn't get him there. It was a pretty crazy Sunday for Mike Haber that put Sherman out of reach here.
Yeah.
Only 4 ads from Sherman this week. He drops Nick Martinez for Michael Bush, then drops Michael Bush and his home run streak for Jake Fraley, Robert Stevenson, and then dropped DJ LeMahieu for Derek Law. An inning and a third, a strikeout, an 075, and a relief appearance that day. However, we'll get to more about him in a moment after I tell you that his MVP this week is Austin Riley. 280 and a 357, 4 runs, 2 doubles, a triple, 3 RBIs, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts, and an error. The least valuable hitter is Jake Berger, who's now on the IL. 063, a homer and 3 RBIs, but 6 strikeouts and an error and a trip to the injured list. The Cy Young, welcome back to baseball, Nick Lodolo. 5 2/3 with 10 strikeouts and nothing earned. Very nice appearance there. I did tell you about Derek Law as well. Well, he had that clean relief appearance, and then he had a really bad one. So he went 2 1/3, a loss, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts, a 15-43, and a 3. Gentlemen, let's talk about this one here. Because on Sunday, it was an absolute devastating Sunday by Mike Haber. He went absolutely out of his mind to the tune of a 405 with a 476 on base percentage, 8 runs, 2 doubles, 3 homers, 14 RBIs, 3 steals, 5 walks, and 10 strikeouts. Ben, how do you combat something like that?
You don't. And it's just, with all due respect to Mike Haber, I've seen a lot of these kinds of Sundays from Mike Haber. And yeah, I've actually seen him on the other end of it as well. I remember in 2017 where he was facing Alex Lorenzo of all people. And I don't know if you remember Anthony Rendon having this career day against the Mets on Sunday. He had like 3 home runs, and I think he had like 14 RBIs by himself, something crazy like that. And I remember a text from Mike Haber be like, Rendon 14 RBIs, like, get the hell out of here. It's just one of those kinds of seasons. But since that's happened in 2017, Mike Haber has felt a lot of fortune on Sundays. Like, we know about it in the semifinals last year, but it's been pretty consistent. It it's the way this game goes, though. Like, you could have like an average kind of week, and then all of a sudden everything changes on Sunday for you. And all I'll say is that for Mike Sherman, this could have been a whole lot worse. He comes with a +4 over Jason in week 1 to take a -6 in week 2 against Mike Haber. That's actually pretty good. Like, to just be -2 under 500 after 2 weeks, and you're already through Jason and Mike Haber on the schedule. Like, that's pretty good. Not to mention, like, he's got a pretty solid lineup. He's got a good bullpen. I don't love his starting pitching, but in general, like, this isn't a bad team. This team can hang a little bit. It's really going to come down to Mike Sherman himself, the amount of like how aggressive he's going to be. Is it really going to be these 4 ads basically every single week? If not, if that's what it's going to be, it's going to be tough to compete. But what I will say is that in his favor, us having 10 ads is very different than us having 12. And if that's the case, there's going to be a lot of decisions that we will be like questioning ourselves, not doing. As a result, it falls in his favor more. So if there is going to be a season where he's going to have a better chance, it would be this one. I just don't know with his schedule outside of fantasy baseball, how much he's got to do. He's got 3 kids, he's got a full-time job. It's very, very tough. But I know that he was excited for this season. He wanted to be a part of it. He loves this league. He wants to compete. He wants to win. So here he is, only -2. I mean, I think he would sign up for that, like knowing the managers that he had to compete with. And then, of course, Mike Haber. We knew after a loss with Jay Ferraro, it wouldn't be too long until he righted the ship. It only took 1 week for him to get a +6. And here he is, Mike Haber. I feel like he's going to be on a collision course after this.
Yeah. Jason, that does bring up an interesting statement here. It's been 2 weeks and we've lowered the number of moves per week to 10. How are you feeling about that after 2 weeks?
I'm gonna say it's been 1 week. I know it was 2 weeks, but the long week that was a struggle with 10 ads. But it is what it is because it's a long week. So I'm curious to see how like next week's gonna be. But I felt pretty good. Look, like I only used 8 this week, and how many times last year did you see me use all 12? Right, that was a thing. So I think if I had to say right now, it's looking pretty good.
All right. I certainly like it as well. I did realize about 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon that I'm like, oh shit, I can't set up for Monday because I've already used 9. Rather than having 3 and being able to set up, it's now I have 1 for a decision to be made for Sunday. So something to be a little bit more cognizant of.
Something that's good. It's just good for the league, though, Joe. The fact that you have to kind of make that decision. Is it more important to compete for this week, or is it more important to set up for next week? And you kind of have to play that game with yourself, and we're all doing it. And as a result, there's more in free agency, more has to stay on your team. There's more emphasis on the draft now as a result. Like, all these things is just making it better right now. I'm very happy with the decision so far. Things might change around week 21, week 22, and the playoffs. Then I might be like, shit, with all these rainouts, I wish I made a better decision. But as of right now, at this moment, 10 is perfect.
I agree, man. Speaking of perfect, let's talk about who had the perfect week. It's managers of the week time. Who is the number 3 manager of the week for you, Jason Ashby?
It was tough. It's tough this week. I'm gonna give it to Josh Haber for taking you down, Mr. Schubert. 12-7. I think it was a little bit bigger going into Sunday or Saturday, if I remember correctly, but still a win over you is an accomplishment. So congrats to Josh, who is sitting in second place. It's only week 2, but still worthy of note.
Yep, it's a top 5 team. He's won both of his first 2 matchups, and he's out of the gate with a swing and a long drive. Credit to Josh Haber. He's also going to be my number 3 this week. So more credit to him getting that second win. Benji, who you got at 3?
I'm in a different direction than you guys here. I'm going with Henry Collins over Adam Lowenstein. This was a get-right win after losing to Cody. He wanted to get back on the winning column. He he had some struggles, but he really did a lot of work this week. And I think he was competing with a very, very tough manager. Adam, he wanted to stay up till 3 a.m. to or wake himself up to pick up Ashcraft, but he couldn't because Joe Schubert grabbed him at 3:01. And that
By
was
the
a
way,
big difference.
yes, because of that is why I grabbed. I was up too. I was up with you at the same time, and you grabbed your Ashcraft, so I grabbed Soroka.
Why did you grab him at 3 a.m.? You could have you got the extra minute. Joe got him at 3:01.
I woke myself up. I set an alarm. By the time I got up, got to the phone, got to the app, Joe had just taken him. I was so angry at
Wow.
at 1 o'clock in the morning. It was
Sure.
disgusting.
Because like you force yourself out of bed and you still don't get your guy, like that is the worst. I've been there. But yeah,
And
again,
that guy ended up giving me just enough to win a couple of categories back over Josh and saved my ass. So
wow.
yeah. Big time. Big
So,
time.
yeah,
Big time
again,
snipe from 2 other guys.
Yep. So I mean, Adam wanted that one. It would have made a difference in this matchup, but Henry played it beautifully, and I think he deserves some credit. And I'm sure you guys will get into it more on Wednesday when you discuss it. But Henry did a great job here, and he gets overlooked. He deserves Manager of the Week for me.
No doubt, he did a great job. Jason, who do you have at number 2?
I gotta go with the biggest scorer of the week here, giving it to our number 1 team, Jay Ferraro. You know, he took down Brian Lebo, who we talked about. His 1-2 punch of Burns and Glass now, and he was able to get by that and put up a huge win. He could be my number 1, but I'm gonna save it for something else that Ben brought up. But kudos to Jay for, again, 2 weeks in a row now being top team in the league.
Yeah, good job, Jay. He came out the gate firing on all cylinders, taking down a big win here over Brian Lebo. Benji, who you have at number 2?
I'm jumping on board with that. For me, it was Jay Ferraro as number 2. Yeah, it was a tough fight for Brian Lebo. It looked like it was going to be, and it was just crazy how like Brian had the lead, and then Jay just kept on like hanging out another category, and it just felt like by Sunday Jay was just going to make this thing really ugly, and like true in Jason Ferraro fashion, that's exactly what he did. The Evan Carter deal happens during the matchup, and he's able to acquire that to help him out. And he's really mixed and matched really well with this outfield, which he has to kind of do. So I think he's just done a great job between that, the bullpen he put together. He made it not fun for Brian Lebo. And I feel bad for Brian at this point because like that was the wrong guy to walk into in week 2. So I hope that he's licking his wounds and thinking, it's a very, very, very long season. 20 more matchups to go. This thing is far from over. So I do hope that Brian can find his way back into this thing. Definitely. My favorite manager, Brian Lebo. For what he has to do and how much he loves this league, I'm always rooting for Brian. So like I hope he does find a way back in, but more and more credit to Jason. He was our number 1 last week. He's my number 2 this week.
Yeah, he's my number 2 as well, guys. It's a clean sweep this time by congratulations to Jay. Good work once again, getting a huge win. And anytime you can get a big win over any manager in this league, it's worth celebrating. So this is a celebratory number 2, as they say. Jason, who's your number 1?
Ben, you mentioned a get right win. This was a get right win for Bobby Russo, coming back after a tough loss to Josh Haber last week to come back and beat a manager like Frank. I didn't track the matchup, so I don't know, how the week went. All I know is the final score was a 12-9, which is really, really close. But a get right is a get right. So good job for Bobby.
Absolutely. I have Bobby as well at number 1. Benny, is it a clean sweep here?
No, unfortunately, it's not for me. I love the way
Okay.
Bobby played, especially with the pitching, because the pitching was so awful for him. But he knew that Frank's was worse. But no, Frank's was actually slightly better over more innings. But all it would take was just to get some quality innings as the week went on to drop that ERA. That's exactly what he did. I do not want to say like that Bobby wasn't a great manager this week just because don't have him in the top three. He did a great job. He deserved you could say that probably should have come out better than 12-9, but to get right win, that's huge. My number one is Josh Haber. I thought that he managed brilliantly against arguably one of the best day-to-day managers in the game in Joe Schubert, a four-time champion. And Josh, the fact that he's coming off the first place going into week two and then has to face Joe and still can hold his own and knock him out, that was huge to me. I mean, I thought he really, really played well under the pressure. How many times can someone say that they've beaten Joe like twice in a calendar year? It's not many, you know. He beat him in the semifinals, and here we go. It's a rematch in week two, and Josh wins it again pretty decisively. That's impressive to me. So it was a hands down decision for me to pick Josh.
Congratulations, Josh. It was a great win. We'll talk more about it in depth on Wednesday when I meet with Jay and cover part two. But, gentlemen, this has been an unbelievable show. Thank you so much for being here with us, Jason Ashby.
Absolutely, absolutely, guys. 2 weeks in, and the drama is already starting to build. This is the bigs. I'm so excited and can't wait to see what's left.
Laying the foundation for these stories, Benjamin. We can't wait to see what unfolds this year. Thanks for being here with us, dude.
Thank you so much. And I'm grateful to be the guy, the creator of games, so that we could have all this drama and so many storylines. There's so much more that's going to happen over the next 20 weeks. And remember, when in doubt, look at Cary Grant.
Look at Cary Grant, guys, and always remember it's been real, it's been fun, and it is always real fun in the bigs. We'll see you guys next time.